Hey everyone, it's Xinfonia. As I've already done a video on Hyacine's place in the meta, I will now be teaching you everything you need to know to build Hyacine properly, including answering some questions regarding optimizing Castorice and the teams. Let's start with Trace priority. It's pretty much everything and then her basic attack. Hyacine wants to basic attack in non-HP scaling teams because you need the skill points and can contribute a little bit more damage then. When it comes to relics, it's actually incredibly straightforward. Outgoing healing boost, speed, HP percentage and ERR. Hyacine scales off HP and is obviously a healer, so HP Orb and healing boost the body are no-brainers. For boots, Hyacine actually converts speed over 200 into extra healing boost, so very obviously speed boots. Like I've gone over in the previous video, even with Lita Ika attacking and using her skill 3 times in a row, Hyacine doesn't get the maximum 140 energy required, but only roughly 131. This still means ERR gives you a better chance of getting a 3-turn ultimate, which is extremely powerful in HP scaling teams. In other kinds of teams, energy regen guarantees a 4-turn ultimate as long as you scale twice, so it's still going to be an energy regen rope. For subsets, you obviously want speed and HP first, since it contributes to more healing and hence more damage from Lita Ika, and then you want crit damage. Hyacine gets 300% crit rate, so any crit rate is completely useless on her and you should always be avoiding crit rate subsets. For relic sets, it's quite obviously the new set, Warrior Goddess, that gives you 12% speed and 15% crit damage for the team. But honestly, you can still run double speed or speed plus HP as well if you can still get higher speed. The only difference between the new relic set and speed plus speed is 15% crit damage, which is honestly quite negligible, but obviously gives you slightly more total damage, so this should be farmed if you really want to optimize your damage. For planar ornaments, it's obviously Giant Tree for the extra 6% speed and extra healing boost based on your speed, which should be pretty easy to get the maximum 20% since Hyacine will already have 200 plus speed. Even though Hyacine is a wind, Ego just doesn't really work well for her since she is built with higher speed, and the higher speed you have, the less you benefit from action advance. Not to mention that her 3-turn ultimate is not guaranteed, and you even lose 12% speed in the process. This matters since you get extra healing boost from your speed, hence I think Ego is almost never worth it. For Lightcones, it's also extremely straightforward. It's pretty much her S1 versus Memory's Curtain because only Memory's Curtain offers you extra speed. I guess if you want extra damage, Sweat Now, Cry Less or Reminiscence could be possible choices without S1, but since memory curtains exist and crit rate and damage percentage is kinda useless for Ika since it already has 100% crit rate and 240% damage boost for free, I don't really think you should be considering these light cones at all. Hyacine's S1 gives you 18% speed and 18% vulnerability. The unique part about this light cone is that it consumes 1% of the entire team's HP on Hyacine's turns, and Ika then deals 250% of the consumed HP as additional damage. The HP drain sounds great for Castorice, but it is only 1% and also only contributes about 1 to 2% extra charge. The reason why this is good is because it activates Lita Ika's talent, which will cause Ika to consume its own HP to heal the entire team again. Basically, you can activate Ika's healing on Hyacine's own turns as well. This actually doesn't contribute that much in terms of charges, but when you consider the extra speed and higher base HP, which means higher healing in total, it comes out to be about 49% more charge for Castorice in the first 3 turns. Memory's Curtain is basically the best and only free-to-play choice and thankfully doesn't fall too far behind S1. In terms of total damage output in a Castorice team, it's only about 12% behind, but gets worse the longer the fight goes due to S1's extra healing. In terms of healing output, however, it's a pretty significant 30% decrease, but the biggest drop-off is Ika's damage, because not only do you heal less, you also lose the additional damage, which is why it drops by almost 40%. Therefore, for stat goals, roughly 210 plus speed is fine, ideally 220.8. With 2 S5 dance procs, this guarantees 6 actions in the first 2 cycles, but honestly, speed tuning is virtually non-existent for her other than this. So if you don't have S1, you can't reach 220 speed, or you don't have dance, it really doesn't matter. You also want roughly 5,500 HP, the higher the better obviously, and roughly 150 plus crit damage is good, everything else doesn't really matter other than maybe effect resistance. I already covered this in the previous video, but just in case you don't understand how to use Hyacine, for HP scaling teams like Castorice especially, you ideally want to scale 3 times, so it looks a bit like this. If you manage to regenerate extra energy externally, it can turn into 2 skill 1 basic, but most of the time should be 3 skills. For non-HP scaling teams where the skill points matter much more, it has to be 2 skill to basic. Only the first skill is fixed because Hyacine gets a 1-turn ultimate at the start of battle due to Ika's talent, which regenerates extra energy the first time it is summoned. Like I said previously, this guarantees a 4-turn ultimate with ERR rope, so it's quite a fixed rotation. This obviously means the last turn doesn't have extra healing or little Ika attacking, so obviously her damage output will drop outside of HP scaling teams. My favorite rotation right now at the start of battle for a Castorice team with RMC is actually having RMC run Sprightly. This lets RMC summon Mem before Hyacine, which allows Mem to regenerate more charge and get Mem support faster. Before we get into Hyacine's teams, Eidolons and Castorice builds, I would like for you to know this video is sponsored by LD Shop. It's a safe and reliable way to top up Jades at a discounted price from 13 to 25% off, and you can get extra discount coupons with my code in the description. All you need is your UID, you don't need to give your login details or anything like that, and you will get your Jades very quickly. I got my Express Pass pretty much instantaneously, and if you spend 80 USD, you can become a VIP with even more rewards like free Express Passes and more discounts. Anyways, back to the video, Hyacine's Eidolons are pretty good, especially E1 and E2. Once again, as a little reminder, percentage is sometimes misleading, and this is one of the few cases. The base Castorice team plus Hyacine is already incredibly strong, so even if I were to boost the team's damage by roughly the same amount as other Eidolons in other teams, the percentage will look smaller for Hyacine. Firstly, E1 increases the HP for all allies by a pretty ridiculous 50%, and every attack also heals the attacker by 8% of Hyacine's max HP, basically Gallagher's ultimate on her E1 on top of a HP boost. This is obviously a huge buff for HP scaling teams, and I found actually gives more charges to Castorice than S1, meaning it heals more in total. E2 increases an ally's speed by 30% whenever that ally loses HP. Once again, very strong in HP scaling teams because they usually can consume their HP as well, and with Hyacine S1, this speed buff will become permanent and for the entire team. E4 increases both Hyacine and Ika's crit damage by 2% for every speed over 200, and since you also have the 30% speed boost from E2, this can give you an additional 100 plus crit damage for free, and increases Ika's damage by quite a significant amount. Finally, E6 reduces the healing cleared from 50% to 12% and the classic 20% rest pen boost. This increases Ika's damage by quite a significant amount while also increasing the team's total damage because of the rest pen boost. As Hyacine has really good E1 and S1, there was quite a lot of discussion between which would be better, especially for Castorice teams, and what I found is that E0S1 and E1S0 perform pretty much the exact same for a Castorice team, E1 being better by roughly 1%. However, due to the rotation used to save as much action value as possible, some of the healing from E1 was wasted for Castorice, hence E1 should in reality perform slightly better. However, due to S1's unique passive, Ika does roughly do 12% more damage at S1 than E1. Therefore, I think E1 is better for Castorice teams, and the priority should look something like this. The only exception is if you are pulling Hyacine for Blade specifically, then it is very obviously S1 over E1. Now, for how this affects Castorice builds, I keep seeing people say that a damage orb Castorice becomes better because Hyacine has HP boost and whatever. This is mostly untrue. Castorice does more damage with a Quantum Orb only at Hyacine E0S1 and by a very tiny margin at 0.03%. This means that a HP Orb should pretty much still be the better choice since this provides more new blood points when consuming HP, be it from Hyacine's S1 or Castorice's skill. For Hyacine at E0S0, E1S0, E1S1 and so on, a HP Orb for Castorice performs better, which means more new blood and still higher damage. At the end of the day, whether you run a Quantum Orb or HP Orb doesn't really matter as much because the difference is quite small, but it is untrue that a Quantum Orb performs better with Hyacine. I still recommend a HP Orb with Castorice. Finally, we have Hyacine teams. This is sort of how I have the teams ordered as of right now. Castorice Hyper performs the best, followed by Cas Duo Carry with Melee, followed by Melee and Blade. But Blade might actually outperform after his buff in 3.4 and with Hyacine S1. Castorice, Hyacine and RMC is an incredibly strong combo that is further amplified by 3B. Having two other Remembrance units means there is a larger HP pool for Castorice to drain, and also technically more units for Hyacine to heal, which contributes to faster charge generation for Castorice Ultimate. I think a Castorice Melee and 3B team is quite strong, but unfortunately due to Melee's RNG, it is quite hard to make this work consistently. If the enemies are very aggressive, it might even be possible for this to be the best team, but I find that rarely ever happens, hence why it's second. Blade actually benefits a lot from Hyacine S1 because it counts as 1 extra stack every Hyacine turn. Not to mention the HP boost, he most likely benefits more than Midi, and he is still getting a buff in 3.4, hence this synergy might be even stronger then. Midi prefers higher single target healing so that he may gain more charges when consuming his own HP, but Hyacine's healing is more spread out, which doesn't gel super well with his playstyle, but still provides very useful HP boost, and this seems to be able to activate Midi's 8000 HP requirement before the battle as well with her technique. Once again, due to Hyacine's pretty high damage and decent healing, she can be used in non-HP scaling teams as well. The team just can't be too skill point negative, like I imagine Danhengai will be pretty hard to run with Hyacine. The Herta, Acheron and Facial are the 3 teams that came to mind for me. However, you do have to give up some resources. For example, Anaxa would have to basic attack more than if you were to use Ningxia or Aventurine, and Cypher would have to use a basic attack on the first turn instead of her skill. I think Cypher plus Hyacine is quite a potent combo that just so happens to have some overlap in Acheron and Facial teams. Because Hyacine is the highest damage dealing sustain in the game, Cypher being able to record the damage and amplify it is obviously extremely beneficial and can contribute even more damage. However, as they are back-to-back banners in 3.3 with Final and the Fate collab right around the corner, it's very hard for most players to be able to use this combination at all. I'm sure there are many other different variations, but I think these are the most notable Hyacine teams as of right now. And with that, that's pretty much it for my Hyacine guide. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you.